Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome. Sorry guys, I decided to hop on just a little bit earlier than I had planned to because I had the time to, and so I figured let me just hop on, and then hopefully everybody who wanted to attend will be able to attend. It's not too much earlier than I had planned and announced, so I hope it's okay with you guys. Thank you everyone, welcome. Hello. So today I want to talk about 3 steps that we can take, or 3 different things that we can focus on in trying to do what we can to prevent birth injuries and birth interventions. So birth injuries can be things like, for example, episiotomy. It could be like an intervention would be where you're trying to give birth, but then there has to be like an outside force, or that a lot of times it's not that there has to be, but it's that there is an outside force that is making decisions to kind of impact your birthing process. And so, for example, episiotomy could be a birth intervention, but a lot of times birth interventions lead to birth injuries. So an episiotomy, it might be something that is it might be something that's common, where you actually have like the vaginal opening actually has to be cut in order for the baby to come out. So that is something that might be common. But it's something you have to recover from. Like, you have to have stitches, you have to recover, and so it's basically an injury. And so I just want to start this video as I started my last live video, saying that I do have a lot of strong opinions and beliefs, and I'm never here to shame anyone or make anybody feel bad. That's not at all my intention. And so I also want to say that I am not a birth doula, but I am somebody who really cares about their own birthing experience. So I really care about the experience that I have as I give birth. And because I care about my own experience, I also care about your experience. So if you're somebody who is pregnant, I genuinely care about the experience that you have as a pregnant person, as somebody who is giving birth, as somebody who's about to give birth, or not far from giving birth, wherever you're at in your pregnancy. And also your postpartum experience and your mothering journey. So I'm somebody who really cares about all of that. And I believe that for me, this topic of doing whatever I can to support my body, to prevent any types of birth interventions and birth injuries, that's like very high on my priority list. And so since it's something that I really am passionate about, I wanted to share it with you guys too. And so basically I just have 3 things that kind of stand out to me as I am trying to prepare for my own birth and prevent these types of things from happening, and may God protect us all. But I believe that so one thing is that I believe that a lot of times birth interventions cause birth injuries. So if our bodies are able to kind of go through the labor and birth process as they need to, at the rate that they need to, and of course there's times where we do need help. I'm not denying that, but when we are in a situation where our body just needs to go with its own flow, if we are interrupted in any way, like if somebody wants to offer a medication to get the birth to go quicker, those types of interventions, I believe, can really make it difficult for us to avoid birth injuries as well. Because in that example, for example, if we are given like Pitocin, a medication to make the birth process go quicker, then that could really cause a lot of intensity in the cramps that, or not cramps, the contractions that we're feeling. It could turn into actually needing to have other types of birth injuries, other types of birth interventions, which then kind of lead to an experience that might not be as natural to our body, and that can leave us with a lot of trauma, and that can leave us with different types of birth injuries. And I believe that birth injuries can be physical, so we might actually have like a pelvic floor issue, or something like that. But I also believe that a birth injury can also be to our own spirit and to our own like mental well-being, because a lot of times the experience that we have in birth can stick with us through the rest of our lives. And if it's an experience that is really like traumatic, it could be a mental type of injury in a way. So the first thing that I think is really, really, really important in preventing birth interventions and birth injuries is education. So I really believe that being able to spend our pregnancies preparing as much as possible through educating ourselves is super, super important. I believe that having an understanding of how our bodies work is so important, because then we can have the confidence in our bodies and we can understand what the process is like, rather than just kind of like going to give birth and feeling like we're just so lost, and then we don't really know what our options are. And if we don't know what our options are and that we have options, then we actually won't have any options, because other people will make the decisions for us. So we need to be able to feel educated. We need to be able to, somebody's saying confidence is key. Exactly. And to have confidence in our bodies and in birth and all of that, we need to have some type of education, or we need to have some type of information of understanding how our bodies work. And I believe that it's something that we have to look for ourselves in a way, because I don't feel like our culture or our society really prepares us for this. So it's sort of like we have to look for the education. We have to figure out what are birth interventions, like what are different types of protocols that hospitals have that would be a birth intervention. How about if you're having a home birth? What types of interventions might your midwife commonly use? Like we need to have access to that information. And I really believe that one place that helped me understand more about birth interventions and birth protocols and stuff like that is a documentary called The Business of Being Born. So start your education, watch that documentary called The Business of Being Born. I believe there's a second one as well. I think I watched it, but I watched The Business of Being Born so long ago, and it really did help me. So that's the one thing. The other thing is, so we want to be aware of wherever we're planning to give birth, we want to be aware of birth interventions. And just in general, I believe that even if you're giving birth at home, it's important to be aware of birth interventions that are commonly used. So that's what I think you should start with, is The Business of Being Born documentary. I think someone asked about Netflix. It might be on Netflix. It was when I watched it. I'm not sure if it still is. So you might have to check on that. But so I believe that that's important. Now, the other side of that is we need to have education on being confident about our bodies and how they are made to give birth, right? So I believe that when we understand how our bodies work, we can feel more relaxed about the process of giving birth rather than feeling nervous. So for me, before becoming pregnant the first time, I'm currently pregnant with our second, I was really fearful. Like my biggest fear was to give birth. And I think a huge part of that was not understanding how birth works and how our bodies were created to give birth. And so in learning and becoming more educated on the process, like the physical process, and even like other layers of our being, the process of giving birth, having a better understanding of that really helped me to feel completely different. Like, to be honest with you guys, I started off by feeling like birth was the scariest thing that I could ever go through in my life. And by the end of my pregnancy, I was excited about birth. And so that was really powerful. And what helped me is a book called Hypnobirthing. In that book, it really emphasizes the need for us to let go of the fear that we a lot of times carry about birth. And one way of kind of letting go of that fear is better understanding how our bodies work. So I believe that the Business of Being Born documentary is really helpful in educating yourself, as well as the Hypnobirthing book. There's a ton of other books, but those are two things that helped me a ton, and that's what I want to share with you guys. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I believe it's really, really important to choose a care provider, somebody who is going to be helping you during your birthing experience. I believe it's important to choose somebody who is going to respect you and your wishes. So if you're somebody who wants to avoid birth interventions, if you're somebody who wants to avoid birth injuries as much as possible, like you don't want to have an episiotomy, you really don't want to have a C-section, if you're somebody who has that in mind, you have to find a care provider who is willing to be on that same page with you and who's willing to support you in that. And I know that for a lot of people, it can be very hard to find that type of care provider. And actually, there's a lot of women. There's like a movement of women who are doing unassisted births. Like they just have their babies at home. If you're interested in that too, there's this page called Free Birth Society. They actually have a course to teach you about the different things that you need to know if you're going to do that. But people are going that route because they just can't find a care provider who is willing to support them. And I am just so grateful because I have a wonderful midwife who I love so much, who I trust fully in supporting me and my wishes and what I want. And I'm just so grateful and so blessed to have had that as my experience last time around, even though I had a different midwife at that time as well. But to communicate to somebody and say, like, I want my body to go through the process of giving birth. Yes, I need to have care if there are concerns that come up, but besides that, I need to be able to go through this process on my own the way that I want to do that. Oh, somebody here says that they're a free birther. Oh, that's so cool. Honestly, I thought about doing that this time around too, but I just loved I love the midwife that we have locally, and I really appreciate her, and I also love having that care from a midwife, just like another woman, like being there to care for you. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna have a midwife. But I do think that free birthing is absolutely amazing. So I believe that choosing a care provider that's actually going to respect you and is going to respect your wishes is really, really important. It's such a vulnerable time. Like, giving birth is such a vulnerable time. And if you feel like you're being cared for by somebody who's not really on the same page as you, that's already, like, at least in my body, just thinking about that, it's already it's too much. How is my body going to relax when I'm just being observed by somebody who's like not on the same page with me and my wishes, or who is making me feel judged? That's not something that I feel like would be, like, I wouldn't be comfortable. And you need to be comfortable when you're giving birth. Okay, awesome. I love these comments that are coming in. Okay, so that's the second thing. So first thing was education. Second thing is doing whatever you can, whatever you possibly can. I know not everybody has the ability to be particular with who their care provider is, but doing whatever you can to find somebody who you feel supported by. And so finding a care provider who will respect you. Okay, and then the third thing that I think is really helpful in preventing birth interventions and birth injuries is focusing on supporting your body in preparing for birth. And to me, I think that this is something that we aren't really taught about. Like no one really talks to us about how we can prepare our bodies for birth. Like we might know about drinking red raspberry leaf tea or exercising a little bit. Hello, my love. How are you? Are you playing outside?
I was burning up on
You were burning up? Oh my goodness, it's hot, right?
So,
okay, I'm gonna be talking. Go with Uncle Sam. So where was I? Yeah, okay. So preparing your body. So I don't think that, like we might know about tips like drinking red raspberry leaf tea to support the womb, or we might try to exercise or do some squats, something like that to prepare our bodies. But I feel like we aren't really given a lot of tools in how we can actively support the preparation of our bodies for labor and birth. And I believe that is the same thing for postpartum care as well. These are like things that are taught in a lot of other cultures, like how we need to support ourselves, but for some reason in our culture, in our society, it's not really, at least to me, it's not really apparent, and it's not really, like we're not really taught about it. So in that case then, we go into the labor and birth process without having been able to really prepare for it. And that's the same thing to me as showing up at a triathlon, not having ever ran, not ever having biked like however many miles these people bike. You don't know how to swim possibly. I don't know. It's like showing up to a test without having been able to study. To me, it's kind of setting ourselves up to have an experience that we don't really feel comfortable with, or ending up being having to go through different types of things like birth interventions. I believe that if we're able to really prepare our bodies for the process of giving birth and the whole labor process, understanding our bodies and what our bodies need from us in preparing for that time, then once we get to that moment of actually being in labor and giving birth, then it can be much more easy on our bodies. Okay, so let me give you guys an example of what I'm talking about. If we focus on let's see, supporting circulation in our body, or relaxation. Relaxation is one that can be easily understood, I think. So for example, if we spend like the weeks leading up to our due date, or the weeks leading up to birth, if we spend that time really focusing on relaxing, just really doing whatever we can to relax our bodies, to relax our minds, to support ourselves spiritually, and we just feel so relaxed, then when we go into the labor and birthing time or phase, or when we are giving birth, it can be so much easier for us to be able to relax in that. And relaxation is what can help birth to not be as intense. So if we're really cramped up and like all tight and stressed, the birth process will also be that way. And so if we're relaxed, it can be much more of a gentle and smooth and easier birth. But we can't really expect that we're gonna like be in labor and birth and just know how to relax. Like that's expecting something from ourselves. It's like showing up to the triathlon and not knowing how to bike, or knowing how to bike, but you're not really fit to bike all these miles that they bike. So it's kind of unfair to our bodies in a way. But it's also really empowering, because if we are able to support ourselves in the ways that we need to be supported leading up to birth, then during the birth, it can actually go a lot smoother for us. It can actually be a process that's a lot more gentle, a lot more relaxing. And through that, we may be able to avoid things like birth interventions and birth injuries. So yeah, so that's basically what I wanted to share with you guys. I hope that makes sense. So again, my first tip was education, educating yourself as much as possible. My second tip was finding a care provider as much as you possibly can, finding somebody who will support you. And then my third tip was learning how to prepare your body for birth. So as you are leading up to birth, how can you support yourself to be ready when you are in the moment of actually giving birth? And so something I'm really excited about is a new course that I will be launching that will actually help you to do just that. It will actually give you the different ways that you can use vaginal steaming and a lot of other tools to actually prepare yourself for labor. And then it'll also include a lot of information on how to use vaginal steaming during labor, as well as for your postpartum recovery. So it's kind of like a three-step approach, and it's a self-paced online course. My email list already knows all about it. So if you're on my email list, you've probably already heard all about it. But for everybody else, I will be launching and giving you the information about it on Thursday, God willing. So please keep an eye out for that, especially if you're somebody who's pregnant. We just talked about how important it is for us to be able to be prepared for labor. But then the class will also include how to support yourself during labor with vaginal steaming, and then how to support yourself postpartum with vaginal steaming, but with a lot of other traditional practices as well. So keep an eye out for that, guys. I hope that this video is helpful to you. I really appreciate all of you guys for being here live with me. And yeah, I just hope that this is something that was supportive to you. It's definitely something that I wish that I had heard or came across last time when I was pregnant. Although thankfully, gratefully, I did watch The Business of Being Born, and I did read the hypnobirthing book. And so that was really awesome. But yep, I guess I'll just leave you guys. For now, let me see. Men really need to listen to this too. From what I've heard, they can stress women during labor because of their own nervousness. Yeah, and that's why I think it's actually like if you have a partner with you through this process, how about watching the documentary together? How about reading hypnobirthing together somewhat, at least, something like that, so that they are also becoming more comfortable, because that's true. Their vibe really does make a difference. This live is so inspiring. You have no idea, Michelle. Oh, thank you so much. I have goosebumps reading that. It really, really means a lot to me, because when I come up with these topics, I always wonder if anybody's actually going to be interested in it. So I'm really grateful that you think that you feel like that. Okay, looks like there's just a bunch of comments about free birthing. Yeah, okay. And then somebody also requested that we say a prayer for them because they want to become pregnant. So please do say a prayer for them. I know it is just so difficult when you're somebody who actually wants to become pregnant and you're going through that journey. I know it is really difficult. And I've offered a workshop before. It's actually still available. It's called Preparing Your Body for Pregnancy. So if you're somebody who wants to become pregnant, that could be something that's very supportive to you, and it's available on my website. You can find the link through my bio. But I would definitely say a prayer once I end this live. So will you be saving this live? Yeah, I'm going to try to save this live. I've been trying to put these live videos on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And I also have been trying to put it on my IGTVs. So let's see if that works. If it does, you'll see it on my page. All right. Bye, everyone. Take good care. So much love to you.